Hello everyone, the December Review here, back again with another review. Hey, that would make a great jingle, or even a theme song.
Hello everyone, a December Review here, back again with a movie review. Was it good, bad or indifferent? Go watch the show to find out now. Hit the subscribe, do it now. Hello everyone, a December Review here. Hello everyone, a December Review here. Hello everyone, a December Review here. The December Review is here.
Today, I'm going to talk about the new film Becky, which has just hit online to rent and can be seen in select drive-ins. The film is getting a lot of publicity for having Kevin James playing a neo-Nazi, just broken out of jail killer named Dominic. I don't think Harry Heffernan would approve of this. It also stars Lulu Wilson as the title character, Becky, Joel McHale as Becky's father, Jeff, and Amanda Brugel as Kayla, plus a few extra tough guys and a couple of dogs. The film opens with a shot of the end. Becky is answering questions regarding her role in whatever the film is about to show us. We jump into story mode here, where we see two storylines hover, then collide. Our main lead, Becky, is having a day. She is getting ready to go on a trip with her father, and she has got an attitude. We learn that her mom has passed away about a year ago due to a sickness through flashbacks, and she isn't dealing with it well. Coping just a bit better is Jeff, who has taken her up to their old home in the woods to surprise her with the news that he is getting remarried to Kayla. At the same time, Dominic, is in prison assisting with yard time shankings and working on a plan to escape. During one of those perfect movie inmate transfers that just so happens to carry all of the people in Dominic's gang of friends, well, they bust out of custody and make their way to the same home we find our dysfunctional family in, looking for a key that will open something similar to whatever is in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. The trouble is, Becky has the key, and while Jeff, Kayla, and her son have been held hostage inside the home, Becky is out in the woods, watching. Cue the hostile level of blood and gore, and see Becky turn the tide on our gang of Hellraisers. There is a lot to like about this film. From the get-go, you can tell a lot of care went into the details and the editing process. The intro works great as our two sets of groups are intercut throughout the day, going back and forth almost mimicking each other. One happens to be a family in crisis, and the other is a Nazi prison gang, but it's put together so well it sucks you into the storyline quickly. As home invasion flicks go, you know the drill. It isn't my favorite subgenre, as they can be a bit too real for my liking. It's a fear any audience member can relate to. I would put 2007's Funny Games remake as my gold standard, but while that one sticks to the seriousness at hand, only offering humor in its satire, Becky keeps things a bit lighter overall. That's not to say it isn't serious about the situation at hand, but there is a tongue-in-cheek vibe here at times. That's a plus for me because that colorfulness adds to the film's charm. The acting is great. Lulu Wilson steals the show as Becky. She gets to show a pretty solid range of emotions throughout the story. It's mostly anger and kill mode, but we also see the things that made her happy, such as her dogs and when things were better during the flashbacks with her mom. Her angst proves to be the very thing that saves her. After a key point in the film, she flips a switch, going from the hunted to the stalker, with revenge being served up for dinner cold. A cold, lethal, and bloody dinner. Joel McHale gets some big screen time here as well. As the father, he walks a fine line between wanting to give Becky some space and needing to bring structure in, keeping her accountable. He does a good job with that overall, yet it seems like a mistake to announce what he did here in a pivotal scene just before the gang of thugs arrive to the home. It works for the story, but it's a bad look when he probably should have expected Becky wouldn't take the news very well. That said, Joel does great with the role and never wavers from wanting the best for his daughter, even when being stabbed. He makes a big sacrifice, and it works well. The setup of the film also works well as we get just enough backstory from all the characters involved, which then weaves its way throughout the film. Most types of these films don't bother to continue these themes once the slashing starts. Here, the setup pays off. For instance, Kayla is brought in as the outsider girlfriend, the unwelcome guest to Becky's home. As she is met with resistance, Kayla never wavered in her well-meaning for Becky, which became more apparent once she realized Becky was her only hope of getting out of there alive. The bad guys misconstrued their relationship, using it as a hopeful weakness to lure Becky back with the key. They were wrong. Dead wrong. Also, Becky losing her mom works as the film's main motivational thread. The point where Becky's life was shattered and it gets used during the hunting period as motivation. The film doesn't bring up a scenario just to drop it. Everything has a point here. A very sharp, stabby point. The directing is excellent here. The camera work is impressive, bouncing off the scenery with authority. There's a great moment towards the end of the movie where Becky and Dominic, are face to face for a showdown, with fire brimming away, concealing Becky through the haze. It's a wonderful shot, and there are many noteworthy moments like that during the runtime, but that one definitely stands out. The ending credits are also a nice touch from the standard flair we usually get. The score stands out as well. An excellent throwback to B-movie awareness, the blaring synths help add to the cat and mouse games we are seeing. It has a Kill Bill flair to it, which is never a bad thing. Fantastic score.
What was the point of all of this? For a key?
It's worth much more than that. Becky!
The blood in this is next level. For those who don't mind the extra sauce on their pizza, this film will not disappoint. There are a handful of standard gunshots and fist-fighting flourishes, but when Becky gets to taking on the bad guys, she goes full brutal crazy, crafting weapons from her crafts room. It's amazing what a splintered ruler and some sharpened pencils can accomplish, let alone a boat motor. Plus, there is an eye scene that will definitely make you wince. The film doesn't shy away from showing you all the details, then lingering on them for a few extra seconds. I also appreciate the fact that the main motivating factor of Dominic, needing the key isn't fully explained. They come close as he goes off on some superficial rant when pressed about it, but within the context of the film, we don't know what this key will open. I appreciate that being held back. The film also doesn't connect how the key got to that home in the first place, which is a little bit of a head scratcher, but I suppose if you line up how long Dominic has been in jail, I'm sure the key's backstory would line up. Speaking of Paul Blart, during the first half or so of the film, he was scary and brooding, unsure when or how he would strike. Having such a well-known actor go against type worked very well for those moments, but as the story moved along and the more he spoke, those same familiar things came back to haunt his believability. With each sustained rant or setup to catch Becky, I was more and more reminded of the other funny Kevin James. His scare factor diminishes the more he gets used. Still, it's a great move for him to take on such a role, and I give him a lot of credit. Maybe in future watches, his personality will seem more consistent to me, but after one viewing, that stood out.
So do me a favor and direct your gaze to the fire pit. My companion here, the unreasonably large, scary one, he's gonna hold your dad still while I hurt him. I can promise you it will not be pleasant.
His henchmen were also a bit lackluster. Apart from Apex, Dominic's larger-than-life muscle man with a conflicted mind, he worked really, really well in helping to bridge the film's climax. The other two guys were standard cardboard cookie cutter typical trope-filled peanut butter and jelly, banana on toast, turkey on rye, ordinary, corny, cliched, routined, well, you get the point, characters. They were the fodder for the carnage. In a film filled with enough fleshed-out characters, having a few underdeveloped wannabe tough guys isn't really a big deal. It's quite common in most of these types of films, but it does stand out more considering how well made the overall production is. There really wasn't enough time for anything else, and they get destroyed here anyways. So overall, Becky is a great addition to the genre. It's exceptionally well made and keeps you interested from start to finish. It strikes a great balance between touching at times, scary, and intense bloodshed. I found myself caring for all of the main characters and hopeful for a positive outcome. The casting was great, even if the allure of seeing Kevin James play a heavy wore off as the film went along. It's a minor issue, if one at all. The directing, score, and editing are all top-notch and deserve praise. Becky herself is a great character and one that gets set up for what I hope will be a sequel. There are a few loose ends to tie up while continuing her adventure. I highly recommend Becky and give it 4.5 stars out of 5. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel.
Hello everyone, a December review here. Hello everyone, a December review here. Hello everyone, a December review here. The December review is here.